Hi everyone, it's Rax, and welcome to another Diablo 4 guide. Today we're going to go over the overview for the Rogue class, and everyone and their mom has been playing this who's got to test it, and everyone and their mom seems to love it. I had a chance to play it a little bit. I've been primarily focusing on Barb, but the Rogue is absolutely incredible. So we're going to look at Woody's guide on Maxroll, and he's going to take us through and tell us all the tips and tricks about the Rogue. Quick note, we could only play the press preview version of Diablo 4. That's only the level 25 and only one zone. So that's all we're going to be able to talk about here, but that's fine. We'll be able to learn a ton about the Rogue anyway. First thing about them, for their strengths, they deal massive damage, especially if you know how to play a Rogue. A lot of their abilities are conditional and synergize very well. When you press all the buttons perfectly and get the monsters in the right place and do the right things, their damage is completely insane. It's very rewarding to play that class. Rogues are fast, like really fast. I don't know who's faster, a rogue or a barb, but they're both just zipping across the battlefield as fast as they want. And it's also, rogues are super fast in combat while they're fighting the enemies. So very, very mobile class if that's something that you like, and that'll certainly pay off in PvP. They're also quite versatile. Rogues, I think more than any other class, have a different variety of builds. Every barbarian build, one way or another, is kind of like Hulk smash. You kind of dive in there and just try to smash everything dead. There's pretty much no difference there. The sorcerer has a little bit of variance in the different elements that they use, but pretty much it's pick an element, go real hard into it. You have a little bit of different crowd controls, and you just try to blow everything up with magic. Rogues are not like that. Rogue builds can be super ranged, never in the fight at all. It can be super quick, always in the heat of battle. Or it could even be neither of those, and you're walking around laying traps everywhere trying to sabotage everything. So you'll never be bored on a rogue. You can play them probably 1,000 different ways. So some of their weaknesses are they are very positional in everything that they do. If you do your combinations in the wrong order, if you don't know how your build perfectly synergizes, if you're standing in the wrong area at the wrong time, you're going to get punished more as a rogue than any other class. When you're a sorcerer, you can just Frost Nova and teleport out and try again. No problem. As a barb, you can just leap away and go again, or just honestly just walk away because barbarians are so tanky. They don't like it, they can just walk away. Rogues, not so much. It's a little bit more dangerous, and along with that, they're quite squishy. They take a lot of damage. You've got to learn how to survive. And they have many conditional effects. Yeah, X happens only if Y happened before that. You got to understand your build to play it correctly. So to summarize all of this, rogues have very high output, but require very high knowledge and honestly require good mechanics. If you're a god gamer and you want to really test yourself, the rogue would be perfect for you. If you're a casual player, you just like to play for fun, you want to play with your family and just relax, you might want to pick a different class other than this because you're not going to get the output from Rogue as you would some of the other classes. On their equipment, on their armor and jewelry, they got the normal stuff. For their weapons, they have a two-hander ranged attack. Or a ranged weapon, it's either a bow or a crossbow. Bows are faster and do less damage. Crossbows are slower and deal more damage. Feels a little bit more clunky to use a crossbow. They have different implicits on them, which might also impact the decisions you make. For the two one-handers, you either have two daggers. They're for close quarters combat. They're really fast. Or you have two swords. They do more damage, but they're a little bit slower. One thing to understand, similar to what we explained in the Barbarian Arsenal system, if you're using your bow, your two daggers, the stats on them matter. The stats always funnel to the damage of your bow. So you're getting the DPS from the bow and the stats, but you're also getting the stats of the two one-handers. So you need to understand what exactly are you going for, and then the other thing, you might be looking for just the best stats to pump the DPS of the type that you're doing. Okay, so that's the gear. Let's take a quick look at the skills, and Woody was kind enough to give us his impressions of all of them. I'm just going to talk about some of them that stood out to me. For ranged, I really like forceful arrow. Fires an arrow and it applies vulnerable. And vulnerable is extremely powerful, not for dealing more damage, but remember, Rogues are very conditional. So a lot of things only activate when it's vulnerable with a lot of things you'll see in the game. So that's very helpful. And then it's going to give you 15% critical strike chance. That's quite a bit. And then if you have them vulnerable, it'll just pierce through them. Or you can get the knockback, which is very, very good for controlling the battle. When rogues can control the battle and do what they want to do, they're tough to beat. So the knockback can also be extremely powerful. Another one that I like is Invigorating Strike. It's just a good all-around melee physical skill, and it helps with energy regeneration. And again, it can apply vulnerable. So these are the ones that really stood out to me. Didn't really like Blade Shift much because it's mostly for defense. I'm not really caring in my basic skill about defense. Heartseeker is okay. It's kind of like Hungering Arrow. It's seeking an enemy, but you need high crit for it to be valuable. And Puncture is not bad either. I might try Puncture as well. But I liked Forceful Arrow and Invigorating Strike. We go into the core skills. These are the super powerful things that you're basing your entire build around. And pretty much all of them are good, except for I wasn't too moved by Rapid Fire. Rapid Fire is mostly for a single target attack, which is helpful because the bosses are very difficult, but it's just so bad at clearing everything, or clearing all the trash on the way to it, that I found Rapid Fire to be the least fun. Barrage is really good. It sends out a bunch of arrows, and some of them go straight, some of them spread out. It's very good at both AoE and single target, because for AoE, well, there's 5 arrows that spread out, and you can, of course, buff it, and, of course, apply Vulnerable, my favorite. And also, if you get close, all of the arrows can hit one target. So you can give a boss a hug, shoot a barrage, throw a barrage, and then you can get all the damage from it. Penetrating Shot is really good. It pierces through all enemies. Kind of reminds me of the build that I'm playing right now. I'm playing Shadow Impale with the Cold Penetrating rune, where I'm just trying to pull an entire map and throw my cold daggers slicing through everything. It seems quite strong. And again, with proper positioning, you can just mow down an entire map of stuff. Very satisfying to play. Flurry, I believe you can see right up here. It's a bunch of super quick attacks. This is going to be very helpful for things like Poison Imbue, which we'll look later. You can almost spam it, which makes you feel like, I don't know, it feels like you're just attacking 1,000 times a second. Very satisfying, very strong skill. And Twisting Blades is going to show you it's starting to take some more skill for the rogue. So let's read what it does. You impale the enemies with your blades. Then, after 1.5 seconds, the blades return to you. It pierces enemies and does a lot of damage. So it's very important that you impale the right enemy, and then you reposition yourself so when the daggers or whatever come back to you, they pierce through the entire mobs that you have gathered. This is where positioning and understanding mob types and what your cooldowns are is going to really matter. You can combine it with either your evade or your dash or shadow step, as we're about to see, and get really good at it to get a lot of value here. So all 4 of those are really good. Maybe Rapid Fire is better than I think it is, but it didn't move me when I played it. The agility skills, all of them are good. Shadow Step is absolutely godly. It gives you unstoppable, which means you can't get crowd controlled. You can move through enemies and you can get 50% movement speed, and you can also use it to teleport through impassable terrain, kind of like the Barbarian Sleep and the Sorcerer's Teleport. So I would be shocked if a lot of you would not take Shadow Step in your build. Dash is also godly as well. It does damage, but don't worry about the damage. It doesn't do really any damage. But it's going to make them take additional critical strike damage, and it's just super key for mobility. And as Woody wrote, it's the heart of what it plays, heart of what it means to play a rogue. And when you get some CDR with it, this allows you to just run across the entire world all the time. You might not even need your mount. You'll just be so mobile. Caltrops and all traps in general didn't really move me in when I played it. This is maybe not necessarily due to Diablo 4. I just, in general, don't really like trap builds. I think they're too slow. I don't want to lay a trap and wait for something to happen. You know, that doesn't seem like the active, fast-paced playstyle that I like from Rogue. Could be wrong. I'd be happy to be wrong. We'll see what's going to happen here. If you like that playstyle, you can look at Caltrops, but I don't see many people taking this. Move on to the subterfuge skills. Dark Shroud is really good. The 5 protective shadows really help you stay alive. And, you know, again, without proper positioning, the game does get harder. These can save you when otherwise you might die. And you can get more movement speed, and you can get more critical strike chance from it as well. But the damage reduction here is quite significant. Smoke Grenade, it just dazes people for 4 seconds. A 4-second daze is an eternity. That is an eternity. It's stronger than you think it is. Might be really good in PvP too. If that's not nerfed somehow, if it lasts for 4 seconds, it's going to be like the greatest PvP skill ever. Poison Trap, it's a trap. That's a snooze fest. I don't know. I'm not moved by trap skills. And this is just kind of an all-around skill. You vanish from sight, you're stealth for 4 seconds, you become unstoppable, and you gain movement speed. It essentially is kind of like an oh shit button and reposition. Players can still see you though. Let's see, other players can still see you. Yep. So it's not like a complete invisibility, but it might be valuable in PvP as well. Now we have the imbuement skills, which are some of the coolest things that the Rogue has. Poison imbuement is going to put lethal poison on your weapons. It's going to turn your Rogue into a dot damage dealing machine. Just going to be poisoning everything. It's got a 9-second cooldown, which isn't the best, but we'll hopefully get some cooldown reduction, find some ways to reset it to keep the poison rolling all the time. It's very strong with skills that attack very quickly, like Flurry, which is just going to essentially just detonate the entire room. Speaking of detonating the entire room, Shadow Imbuement is one of the best AoE skills for a Rogue, and this is something that I saw almost everybody playing with. Your next 2 skills are going to deal shadow damage that infect enemies, and they're going to explode for 55% damage on death. So you're just going to apply this everywhere, and you're just going to unleash a chain reaction, just destroy everything. Cold Imbuement was a little bit less popular. It's mostly based on chilling and freezing enemies. It's a little bit more crowd control. We're not trying to do crowd control here. We're trying to deal massive damage. Then we jump into the ultimate skills like the other classes. These have a super long cooldown. But the Shadow Clone just mimics your actions and deals 60% of your damage. This is probably going to be one of the best ones. It just constantly pumps up your own damage with a little friend that you summon. Rain of Arrows is pretty sick. You're going to have to try this one. It just makes a huge storm of arrows. Does a lot of damage. Again, has a huge cooldown. And it can knock down enemies, which might be able to save your life. This one will be pretty popular. Didn't try the Death Trap too much. As you can tell, not really a trap person, but maybe someone can craft a godly trap build, and then I'll take a look at it. Finally, we get the ultimate passives. We couldn't unlock these, but one I want to draw attention to is Victimize. Victimize is going to, if they're vulnerable, cause an explosion dealing 23% of the original damage to them and the surrounding enemies. So this is kind of like area damage in Diablo 3, except area damage can't deal damage to the original monster. So it does it to the original monster and the surrounding enemies. So if you combined Victimize with some kind of guaranteed vulnerable debuff, and you combine it with Shadow Imbuement with some big attack, this is how rogues are going to be able to get a group of monsters and just instantly kill the entire room. You can read through the other passives, but that's the one that I thought was very interesting because area damage is considered one of the most busted stats ever from the game. We never thought we'd see it return, but this is actually area damage, if not stronger, because it also hits the original monster. So the class specialization, we're going to cover this in the next video here. We'll go over their unique mechanic, but you get to choose 3 things. You either do combo points, or use inner sight, or you use prep. I'll go over it next time and tell you how I think it's going to influence all of the different rogue builds. For attributes, rogues, of course, want dexterity. It's more skill damage and dodge chance. And then strength is good for resource generation, and intelligence will give you critical strike. Willpower is the only one that's kind of worthless. Healing received and overpower damage are just not great. And we'll be going over all the legendaries, of course. We couldn't really find very many going up 1 to 25. The Codex of Power is here. It's going to show you all the different legendaries you can get from there. If you don't know what the Codex of Power is, you go do dungeons and you unlock these legendaries that you can apply to your abilities early on. Usually, in general, the ones that are very helpful when you're a low level are either the resource ones to gain energy or the utility ones, except for this one's trapped, so that kind of sucks, or anything with mobility. So probably going to go for the resource ones while leveling up. And then, of course, when you get to the higher levels, we're going to be looking for the godly uniques and the godly legendaries anyway. But more on this later when we come up with the leveling guides. Then there's some drop-only legendaries, which you can see, but again, we couldn't find very many leveling up to 25, and we didn't find a single unique item in that press preview. So, in general, this is the way that rogues are. They're super agile, they're super high damage, but they're squishy, and they're very high skill. So just remember that you're signing up for a class that you absolutely have to understand how it works, and you got to be good at pressing the buttons. They mostly do physical damage, but with the imbues, you can add shadow damage, poison damage, and cold. Cold is for utility, shadow damage is to blow up the whole room, and poison is to put massive dots on everything. How you position yourself and the quick decisions that you make are going to determine whether you're a good rogue or not. There's a ton of different builds for rogues, much more versatile than the other classes, and energy is their primary way of dealing damage. With some energy buffing things, you will be able to spam a lot of your core skills, hopefully, and just destroy everything. So that's the overview on the rogue. Are you guys going to play it? Is this the class for you, or do you think you're going to play something else? I'll see you in the next one. We'll talk about their specialization and see how it ties into this video. Thank you.